Great to be here. Very nice to meet you. My name's Jo Gilbert, and I'm Technical Director at the GSMA. And I'm here today to talk about the strategic importance of connectivity and the role that 5G can play in smart manufacturing. But before I start, you're probably all thinking, or maybe you're thinking, who are the GSMA? So let's start there. So the GSMA, we are a membership organisation and we represent the communications industry. So we've been around for about 25 years. We're a non-profit organisation. We have around 1,200 members. Around 750 of those are the mobile network operators across the world. So the likes of Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile here in the US. And the rest of the members are made up of that wider ecosystem. So the network vendors such as Ericsson, Nokia, device manufacturers, and the wider ecosystem. So in terms of the role of the GSMA, we look at sort of three areas. Oh, hang on, we haven't moved on, have we? Beg your pardon. Right, something's not quite right there. Sorry, everybody, just give me a second. Okay. Having a slight tech issue because they're moving on my screen but not in front of you. So let me stop that and start again. Yeah, hang on, I'm just going to duplicate it and then, there we go. There we go. Is it good? Yeah, I'll do without the notes. I think the notes were not showing. Okay, so sorry about that. So within the GSMA, we look at sort of three areas. Three pillars of our activities. The first is around connectivity for good, which is around engaging our members, the governments and society to be able to address policy, facilitate digital innovation and ensure that we reduce inequalities by giving access to this technology to everybody. The second part is more in my area, which is around the industry solution, so supporting the technology to make sure that it works for all of our customers, including enterprise customers. And then finally, the third element is around convening. So you may have heard of MWC. It's the biggest communication event that happens each year. MWC is in Barcelona. Just a couple of weeks ago, we welcomed 105,000 people, more or less, to Barcelona to talk all things mobile and beyond. But within that area, I specifically work within the technology department. And in the technology area, we have a small team that are focused on enterprise and the verticals. And our role is very much to help drive the understanding, the adoption and the uptake of mobile networks and mobile technologies in various industries. So my responsibility is for manufacturing and production, but I also have colleagues that look at other verticals such as financial services and smart mobility, aviation, automotive, and those kind of things. So I'll come back to that in a little bit more, but I just wanted to set the scene for who the GSMA are, who am I, and why am I here talking to you today about 5G and mobile connectivity. So I wanted to really just touch a little bit on the core benefits of 5G, but first of all, let's have a bit of a think about connectivity. So I know that there's already been some discussions today about 5G, and I know there's been lots of conversations about topics around AI and a lot of the new technologies and functionality that are happening in the industrial sector. So really, I think you probably all agree that we're getting to the point now where connectivity really is a strategic enabler for the advancements of manufacturing. So, and why is that? Well, it's because that we're seeing that increasingly we're seeing digital transformation, so we're relying more on automation, IoT, analytics, as we were just hearing about with the digital twins, etc., and AI, and needing that reliable connection in order to maintain that quality that we need. On top of that, we've got the complication of some legacy connectivity that's not always delivering for us what we need in terms of the flexibility, the availability. You know, we all know the horror of not spots when we need a connectivity or we're having to move from one connected area to another area. And what we do know as well is that connectivity can really help to support that resilience that we need. We know how important it is to maintain our availability at all times, and we need that resilient connectivity to make sure that we have as fewer disruptions as possible. We want to be able to reconfigure operationally as much as we can, as often as we can. And of course, we're always striving for that continuous improvement. So that's why connectivity is really important. And so from our side of things, when we're talking about what kind of connectivity, then there's a really strong case in a number of cases, or a lot of cases, for 5G being that choice of connectivity. So as we've talked about, we really need that reliable wireless connectivity to ensure that we've got dependable connections for things like our automated guided vehicles, our autonomous robots, and for that real-time industrial monitoring that's absolutely essential to make sure we're ahead of things and we know what's going to happen before it happens. Also, the security, it's an increasingly important factor when we look at what's happening around the world with the threats that our manufacturing is being faced with. So 5G can really offer that advanced authentication, encryption, and that network isolation if we want to. So if we want a totally dedicated, isolated network, we can have that, or we can have a network slice. So that's available, as well as the enhanced security that's built in to the technology. The mobility that we talked about, that flexibility of being able to move the equipment where we need it without any restrictions of, wires or, any of those kind of things. We can move it across the facilities as we need. And then finally, where do we really all need to go? We're seeing that we need to continuously respond to what the customer is needing, and we don't necessarily know what we're going to be needing in 3 years' time or 5 years' time. We might have a plan, but we need to know how that we can cope with whatever kind of comes our way. So the 5G network is again something else that will offer that foundation for flexibility and a network that can grow with your operations as they need to. So that's kind of my couple of slides telling you why it's important, what it can do. But I wanted to kind of back that up a little bit with some research that was done recently with some organisations that have been undergoing some digital transformations, and to get their thoughts on, what is important, what the important aspects are. So part of the GSMA, we have a team called GSMA Intelligence. They're basically a bunch of analysts that spend a lot of time looking at what's going on in the world of technology and understanding where we are. And at the end of last summer, they did a survey with 5,320 enterprises. It was across 32 countries, and as you can see, across a broad number of verticals, not only manufacturing, but you can see at the top there, manufacturing and industrial at the top. So what was special about these organisations is all of them were currently undergoing a digital transformation. I think I moved away from that. Okay, so the first question that we asked them is, when it comes to connectivity, which networks are important to the success of your digital transformation? And what this slide is showing is 5G, fixed networks, and 4G were seen as the most important. Excuse me. You can also see that satellite networks were starting to bubble up there, but 5G, fixed, and 4G were the highest. Excuse me. Chantel, may I have a glass of water, please? Excuse me. Sorry, everybody. It's a little bit dry up here. I'll just wait. Sorry. I'll come and grab that. Thanks so much. We're very dry though. Oh, too much talking today already, obviously. That's much better, thank you so much. Okay, so hopefully you've had a little chance to look at this one while I was grabbing that glass of water. So what we could see is, across the board, we could see that those were the three priority networks. So then we broke it down by type of vertical. And what this slide is showing is that those verticals that require higher level of mobility are the ones that are more likely to favour 5G connectivity. So manufacturing, for example, where we're looking to be able to move ADVs around, would be higher than something that requires a more static set of devices or machines. So now we are at the stage where we understand a little bit about how important 5G is, as well as 4G and fixed, of course. But for the next slide, we wanted to hone in a little bit more to understand what were the features of 5G that were important. So let's remind ourselves where we are. We're dealing with organisations that are undergoing a digital transformation. Of those, the ones that have told us that 5G come into their top 3 priority in terms of network choice, this is the order of why or what features of 5G specifically were important to them. So across the board, it was enhanced security and enhanced connectivity that are the key features for 5G. Now, the really interesting thing about this is that the enhanced connectivity and the enhanced security are available right now, and they're things that everybody needs right now today. So 5G is relevant right now in factories and processing plants and production areas, you know, across the board. And this was not rounded up, this was collectively across all of the verticals. So if we then take a look at, this is the last slide of the stats, by the way, we'll get onto some case studies in a moment. But this last slide, I thought it was really interesting because what this does is it breaks it down a little bit by vertical. So the key message for this, and actually we use this a lot to talk to the mobile network operators to explain that even though broadly across the board, enhanced security and enhanced connectivity are the key features, and you can see along the top that in most cases it comes as first or second. There's a couple of outliers such as media, but I mean they're still fairly important up the top. When it comes to the later features, it slightly changes by vertical. And really, what we use this for is to kind of explain, as you will know, as the manufacturing industry, that the needs change a little bit subtly sometimes by industry. So therefore, it's really important to the communication providers that are selling to you to really understand what your needs are and make sure that they're delivering those propositions that meet your needs. So that gives, hopefully, it's not just me saying with a couple of slides, hey, connectivity is great and hey, 5G is really good. Hopefully this gives a little bit of stats for why it's relevant and why people are using it already today. But as I said, that's kind of enough of the data. Let's move a little bit onto the case study. And the case study that I have to reference for you is Airbus. So as we know, Airbus do many things. One of the things that they do is build and assemble airplanes. And so we have a case study that's available. So Airbus have been working with 5G for a number of years, and we have a case study from last year that looks at their use of smart tools in their airplane assembly. And the context of this is that manufacturers, they often have to rely on their workers for quite complex assembly. And if you've got a complex assembly and you're putting aeroplanes together, you really need to make sure you put that thing together right, because you're going to get into a little bit of trouble if we don't. So smart tools can really help with this. And Airbus have been using 5G connected tools to help workers from preventing any errors, and it also enables them for greater traceability if there are any problems to see where that's come back, and it also helps them to create records for when jobs have been completed and people can move on to the next thing. So they've found that 5G provides really highly reliable connectivity across the hangars. I've been into one of these hangars, I don't know if you've been into one of these aircraft hangars. They're pretty big places, so you really do need to get quite a lot of coverage, and they've been using that. And they also tell us that in terms of the financial trade-off, this really works well for them as well when they're talking about smart tools. So there'll be a QR code in a moment that will take you to a case study of that you can get free access to and take a look at. but hopefully the sound is going to work on this. But I'd like to give my throat a second break, have a little glass of water, and hand over to Airbus, who can tell you a little bit about their case study. This is about 2.5, 3 minutes long, this video.
In aerospace industry, we have very big hangars where we have our aircraft, and also we have the aircraft.
Is there any more audio?
Can we make an area where we had a lot of issues with the wireless connection. Thanks to the 5G, we don't have problems of network coverage anymore. We are bringing here the new generation of smart tools with 5G enabled connectivity. Thanks to these smart tools in aerospace industry, we are able to collect hundreds of data points per single installation of fastener. And imagine the situation, we are installing millions of fastener per aircraft. Now we are able to collect and store all the data points. Well, the key benefit is low latency, better coverage of network. So now we have the possibility to go inside the wing, inside certain areas of the aircraft that were not accessible before. Using the legacy wireless connections. They are using the tools now in production, and first of all, they are receiving real-time feedback for every single installation, so now they are working with more confidence that the work they are doing is done well, and also, thanks to the 5G connectivity, they are not suffering a shortage of network when they go inside the wings, inside the section of the aircraft. Basically, in our facilities, we have reduced the time to manufacture the part. We have reduced also all the administrative staff. Now we don't fill papers anymore. We are collecting data in real time, ensuring traceability, improving efficiency, and reducing costs. In aerospace industry, it's a very safety critical industry. It was a necessity. We had the necessity to record all of the results from the installations, store the record, and have the records in our databases for the complete life of the aircraft, just in case something happened in the future with this aircraft. Last year we started with to speak about 5G. We started with some experiment, proof of concept. And during the year, we have disseminated all of we tested before, so it has been, I would say, a very, very impressive year for us, speaking from the 5G connectivity perspective. We have moved from experiment to real production.
Okay. So that was recorded at MWC 2025, so last March. Since then, last October 2025, Airbus announced that they were rolling 5G out across France and Germany, their sites there, and it's in plan to roll out across the rest of the world based on not only their smart tool testing, but also a number of activities that have been working on for a few years. So anybody that would like to see that case study in a little bit more detail, there's a QR code there. There's also access to that video. It sounded okay here, but if you had any trouble hearing, and there's also a second video that's available from a different speaker from Airbus that's talking about their connectivity experiences with 5G in the aircraft assembly as well. So encourage anybody to take a look at that if that is of interest. Okay, so one of the things that I mentioned about 5G is its ability to support future proofing. So I just wanted to briefly touch on that. So we have, as you'll know, 5G is continuously evolving with new features coming through over time. A couple of features that are coming available, which we have some papers on, so there are resources that you're welcome to use. The first is around deterministic networking. So deterministic networking delivers predictable latency and reliability for time-critical industrial applications. The QR code at the top right of that that's that paper that shows some examples of some deterministic networking test cases, and some testing that was done. It will give you some real examples of latency and the results from that deterministic testing. Some really nice examples in there. And then the second one is around network APIs and programmable networks, and how increasingly there will be features available to empower applications to use specific network characteristics. An example of this might be quality on demand, for example, where you may want one of your devices, one of your machines, to have priority to access a higher quality of the network over your other devices. And there are features that are available through network APIs. The bottom QR code takes you to a paper that will cover a little bit more of this. All of this is, of course, available on GSMA.com, by the way. So in terms of what we mean by future-proofing, it's really just about putting in that adaptable foundation. So rather than having just a single adoption of manufacturing like a one-off, it enables you to be able to build for resilience. There are benefits today, as we've already talked about, around the secure network, the reliability, the operational flexibility, but also it will support that automation and convergence as it grows with your organisation. And I'm almost towards the end, but at the beginning I talked about how in my area of the GSMA I specifically look after manufacturing and production, and I mentioned that we have a number of different communities. So I just wanted to kind of finish off by telling you a little bit more about that, because really in order to be successful in this area it's all about collaboration. And I've mentioned that my role is to enable the telecoms industry to be able to deliver for the manufacturing and production industry, and the best way that we can do that is to really ensure that we know as an industry what you're needing. So the role of the manufacturing and production community, we bring together mobile network operators, enterprise and the broader ecosystem, and we're all about developing an understanding of the two very separate and very different industries, identifying where we can have innovation and partnerships to really maximize these core technologies like 5G and AI, robotics, edge computing, augmented reality, digital twins, a lot of the things that you've actually heard about today. And we really want to try and address those barriers that organisations are seeing to digital transformation and help the industry to overcome any challenges. We're all about sharing success as well, so where there are case studies that already exist to demonstrate how the technology is working, how we can talk about achievements and share insights from global leaders. And then finally, we're really about building relationships between organisations. So one of the things that the GSMA does best is convene the industry and convene industries as well to be able to work together. So on that note, in terms of practically what we do, we get together often remotely, but also occasionally in person. We run summits at places like MWC and in other places across the world, and we like to come to these environments as well to actually get out and meet people outside of telecoms who can tell us what they think about telecoms and what we can do to improve and make life easier for you guys. And then we also get involved in specialist activity work streams as well. So some of those QR codes that I shared to the deterministic networks and the networking APIs, if you want to be part of that and help develop that, you know, that is possible to do. We also are a nice bunch and we have some fun as well. We tend to go for nice dinners occasionally. So on that note, really, this is just a call to say if you'd like to join us, we would be very happy to chat to you about that. I'm going to just pop the last slide on that talks about membership, because membership is available and we do have a membership that allows you to access many different groups within the GSMA, not just manufacturing. We have some things around IoT, non-terrestrial groups, 6G community, you know, all of those future things, QR code there. And we also have a stand outside in 59, stand 59, well remembered, Joe. So if you want to come and chat to us, we'd really love to speak to you on the next break. Come and grab a cup of tea and come and say hello. So thank you so much for your time and bearing with my coughing fit. And yeah, we hope to catch up with you over the rest of today or tomorrow. So thank you very much.